What's up, QAA listeners?
The fun games have begun.
I found a way to connect to the internet. I'm sorry, boy. Welcome, listener, to chapter 153 of the QAnon Anonymous podcast, the Undercover at a Q-Pilled New Age Conference in the Desert episode. As always, we are your hosts, Jake Rockatansky,
Julian Field,
and Travis View.
This week, folks, I am very happy to unveil to you my new cross-Atlantic control technique, which involves torturing two men who might not even know me were it not for this podcast, but now are under my evil grasp. I can send them to and fro, thence and whence. Travis, were you going to protest?
No, this is true. It's true. You're in your little European sort of control tower, just sending us on little suicide missions like we're pawns.
Yeah, don't think we didn't curse you all weekend, by the way.
Well, guess what? The boys were sent to territory that is now familiar to me because I've been exploring it on Twitch. It is the New Age Q-Pilled explosion that we're seeing among people who normally just do Wim Hof breathing, Kundalini yoga, and testosterone-boosting, ball-slapping exercises, which I'm assuming, boys, he did not subject you to. There was no one made you slap your balls, right?
No, but he did reference it.
Okay.
Yeah, he did. He actually mentioned how he wasn't going to do it. They also, apparently, they were going to do ice baths with the certified health nut, but he wound up not doing that either.
Oh, don't pretend I didn't chide you on Signal telling you that you weren't much of a stoic if you didn't get in one of those ice baths.
I was going to do it.
You know what? To Travis's fucking credit,
Yeah.
He absolutely had volunteered. We had figured out a system of how he was going to change out of his wire so that he didn't have to take off his shirt and then expose that he was undercover. I mean, we had a whole...
That's good.
Yeah, we planned it out how on Sunday I would try out the ice bath, but he wasn't able to offer it for some reason.
We were very, very undercover at this episode. So this was the one time, I think, that neither Travis or myself got made by the end of the event. And just so people get a picture, we cut holes in the back of our shirt pockets and ran the wires up through the back of our shirts so that the lavs could sit at the bottom of our shirt pockets, so we could get the best audio recording possible. I was terrified.
You heard it here. The boys this weekend cut holes where their nipples are, just so they could play with each other more freely. They were at the Family Gathering of Light, which involved Troy Casey, a.k.a. the Certified Health Nut, a bunch of other absolutely bonkers speakers, some music performances that I hear the boys skipped out on, and, of course, the Kate Awakening, an obvious pro-QAnon influencer, which basically gave me the pass to send them to their certain deaths and to have to listen to at least an hour on sexual kung fu. So, boys, I couldn't be happier with this. We're breaking new ground, and it's also very ridiculous and exhausting for both of you. How was the weekend? Did you survive? Did you eat well? Did you have a nice place to stay?
Yeah,
we did.
We slept well. We ate at the local restaurant, so it was. I mean, the stay was pleasant.
Yeah, and Sedona's
Sedona's
beautiful
gorgeous,
area.
Yeah.
I bet. And yes, Sedona, as you mentioned, in Arizona is where it was held. It's broadly considered a vortex, a place of great energy like Mount Shasta in the New Age movements among the starseeds. And I think some aliens are coming up in this episode, folks, because they were in the middle of the desert, basically, at this weird conference room where, as far as I could tell from the pictures you sent me, had galaxies projected onto the ceiling.
Correct.
It's great stuff. Okay, take it away, boys. I can't tell you how much I've been waiting for this one.
So, yeah, this was really interesting because modern, QAnon in July of 2021, they have a few areas of interest and concern. There's, of course, QAnon followers worldwide. They're fueling anti-vaccination efforts as, governments all over the world try to battle COVID-19, especially the Delta variant that's causing some trouble. Here in LA County, where we're recording, we have to wear masks in restaurants again, which sucks, but that's how it goes. The Delta variant has also affected friend of the show, Frankathon, who, as she's known on Discord, who is struggling with her the infection right now. So shout out to her because she is currently doing her own undercover work that I'm looking forward to when she eventually writes all that up. Just this past week on July 24th, thousands protested vaccination requirements and COVID-19 restrictions in several major cities, including in France, Italy, Australia, and the UK. Journalists traced the organization of these protests to chat groups that promoted several conspiracy theories, including QAnon. This is part of a trend of more offline activities for QAnon followers. Michael Flynn, for example, he's still very much involved in the QAnon community at events. He's been touring the country, attending these QAnon-connected conferences, such as the Clay Clark Health and Freedom Conference. QAnon followers are also fixated on the Maricopa County audit in Arizona, based on the insane hope that the 2020 election will be declared fraudulent and Trump will be ushered back into office. That audit is reportedly not going very well. The main person that the Arizona Senate put in charge of overseeing the bizarre audit, his name is Ken Bennett, is considering stepping down after being permanently banned from the building where the audit is taking place. Apparently, this happened after Bennett shared audit data with outside analysts who used it to suggest that the initial results from a new machine count of ballots being conducted by the Senate are tracking closely with the county's count of ballots. So there's not much fraud to be found. This will call into question the results from the auditing from the firm Cyber Ninjas, who are obviously just right now trying to stir up some bullshit in an attempt to delegitimize the election. Now, another major interest of QAnon followers is UFOs, aliens, and what they call disclosure. This is probably best represented in Ron Watkins' latest project, Alien Leaks, which purports to be a WikiLeaks for UFOs. So far, Watkins has only released already public information and a video purportedly taken by Watkins himself of a UFO. I don't know if you saw this, but it's the same like blurry shit. It looks like a white dot off in the distance. But right now, there's sort of an interesting intersection of UFOs, New Age spirituality, and QAnon. And Julian found a conference that seemed to represent that intersection very, very well.
The Great Family of Light Gathering in Sedona, Arizona.
It was about 11 a.m. on Thursday when Travis pulled onto my block, ready to embark on a crazy mission forced on us by Julian from thousands of miles away. Julian had been monitoring a bizarre sect of QAnon via his Twitch channel, a strange community blending holistic health, cryptocurrency, and extraterrestrials, had come together over their love of QAnon. They were holding a 3-day festival in Sedona, Arizona. Unable to attend from across the sea, Julian would send his 2 best operatives, me and Travis, on a road trip spanning hundreds of miles into the depths of the magnificent Arizona desert to provide a first-hand glimpse of how QAnon is mutating into a new variant, one that is much easier to catch and will make you sick. There was a new element for me, both a gift and a curse, if you will. I was fully vaccinated. No longer could I swish my shorts and run for the hills, blaming a will to survive as the reason for sacrificing great content. No, this go-around I would have no choice but to ingratiate myself to a group of individuals who mostly believe they are the souls of aliens taking a mortal shell for a spin around planet Earth. I handed Travis a large coffee I had picked up before he arrived. Iced, black, no cream, no milk. The drive from his bunker in the California mountains to my place had clocked in at just under 3 hours. Our wills were already being tested, as Julian dined on croissants and hashish from his lavish headquarters in Paris.
That is my full diet.
I poked my head into my apartment one last time to kiss my partner goodbye. Alas, she was on a work Zoom call and was only able to barely acknowledge me. I whispered goodbye to Teddy, who looked up at me with sad, hopeful eyes. Would this be the last time I see them? I thought to myself. It was unclear. My disguise was ready, packed away in a large carry-on, a handful of Hawaiian and linen shirts with holes cut into the backs of the front pocket to run the wire through. What the fuck am I doing? Again. Despite having done this a handful of times already, nothing ever prepares me for the anxiety that comes with infiltrating a group of predominantly harmless people. Looking straight into their eyes as I access the most pilled version of myself and present it to them as fact. The content god smiled upon us as we set out across the Los Angeles freeways. We had lingered past the morning rush and found ourselves moving at a steady pace through the waning traffic. I had made sure to give us every automotive advantage. A fresh oil change, clean radiator fluid, tire rotations, the works. A breakdown in the desert would mean certain death for me and a long, sad walk for Mr. Pugh.
I mean, after he ate you.
Yeah, what are you talking about? I had my entire hiking backpack. We'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I would be dead and you would have to hike out of the desert. It'd be sad for you because I would have died, hopefully.
He's a practical man. What do you want him to do with several pounds of meat?
We threw on a podcast helmed by two of the presenters, Journey to Truth. The episode contained other speakers that were to attend the weekend's conference, and Travis and I listened, furious, to what we were about to experience live. The influencers were young with a casual dynamic. Had we not known it was a QAnon podcast, it would have almost sounded relatively normal. The host joked back and forth about which junk foods were their weakness, and then without missing a beat would dive into extraterrestrials as if their existence had been taught in the junior high history books. With about 3 hours to go, we pulled off onto a dusty overpass and into the parking lot of a Burger King/gas station combo. It was blisteringly hot outside, a dry, heavy heat that pushed you into the ground. As we awaited our spicy chicken sandwiches, I noticed Travis staring at the television mounted in the dining room.
They're playing OAN,
he remarked, his eyes deader than usual. A frightened thought washed over me. We were in pilled country. We both watched Marjorie Taylor Greene give an interview on screen. A chyron below read, quote, "The vaccine debate." We ate our food quietly and then headed back on the road. It was dusk when we pulled into the aging Sedona resort. The property was quite pretty, nestled against a backdrop of magnificent mesas. After entering a makeshift check-in area, the lobby was under construction. We were greeted by a man I can best describe as a pilled Rick Moranis.
Honey, I pilled the kids.
Upon viewing our California IDs, he immediately asked us our thoughts on Gavin Newsom. We checked into our room. It was very nice. 2 queen beds a couple of feet apart. This was the closest I had ever slept to Travis. I wondered if our tortured dreams would become twisted in the night. 2 brains overloaded with 3 years of nonsense.
Jake, you're supposed to let the fans write this.
Only time would tell. Travis passed out early, while I struggled to stay awake. Falling asleep would mean I had to face another QAnon conference tomorrow. I held on to my Nintendo Switch for dear life, but Borderlands 2 was no match for the exhaustion following our 8-hour drive.
Day 1.
Unsurprisingly, Travis woke up just after dawn and completed a solo 4-mile hike. I woke up around 11 and debated whether I should take a Xanax. As many of you know, I'm not the most skilled at keeping my cool under pressure. Preliminary research showed that this was shaping up to be an intimate gathering. We had tracked arriving guests on Telegram. There were young couples, mothers and daughters, old friends, traveling from all over the country to be here. I took the Xanax. Intimate would end up being an understatement. When Travis and I pulled up, there were maybe 20 or 30 people hanging out in a small outdoor rotunda with a handful of chairs surrounding the edges. There was a strong showing of man buns and ponytails, flowy dresses, large hats. Basically your average Los Angeles yoga class. But the difference here, everyone was into QAnon. Travis and I seemingly stuck out like sore thumbs. We were both wearing ball caps, and Travis was carrying a large camera bag over his shoulder. As far as I could tell, no one else had brought professional camera equipment. In an effort to blend in, Travis and I headed into the vendors area. There were about 10 different vendors, each hawking various magical wares. There were body creams, organic teas, intricate jewelry made from various earth stones, and a man selling glittery rocks he claimed would mitigate the high EMF fields radiating out of your cell phone. Travis bought one shaped like the bat signal from Batman for $60.
That's right.
What?
It looks like shit. It looks like it's a batarang shaped brick that looks like it's covered in child's sort of craft glitter. It's an abomination that's supposed to like remove the harmful EMFs from your phone. It's a cultural abomination, like a weird blending of pop culture and new age woo.
18 of you Patreon supporters allowed Travis to buy this month. So I hope you're fucking happy with how your money's being spent.
It
that
helped
looks
us stay undercover.
So cursed. And you brought it to the studio and you're going to leave it there. I can see already you're abandoning it here. Your wife doesn't want to see that.
That's right. It is bizarre, a hideous object.
He keeps pointing it to Jake really close up. Like Jake's skull is going to be protected from EMFs if he keeps holding it there. What is happening? You guys have lost it.
I hope Paris is nice. As 3 p.m. approached, we were all ushered into the main conference area, a largish room that felt sort of like a church. On the mid-sized stage, numerous bowls and instruments were lined up, and 2 magical-looking women were making preparations. The event's MC, Jace, from Cosmic Origins, welcomed the attendees.
So we are going to go ahead and get started with our opening ceremonies today. Real quick, my name is Jace. I'm going to be your host throughout the weekend. But we're going to get started with the Sedona Sound Healing Tribe, a local sound healing tribe that does sound ceremonies, sound baths, and it's going to be a real special treat here. So we're going to go ahead and turn it over to them. I'm going to shut off the projector real quick to get the vibes a little more ambient in here, and we're just gonna relax and enjoy it. It's gonna be a little less than an hour, so you can just sit in your seat, and it'll be kind of an interactive sound bath experience. And if you guys haven't experienced a sound bath before, it's a really magical thing. It's really good for your central nervous system, for your body, for your overall immune health. It really opens up the channels and the corridors in your body for higher light and energy to come in and fill your vessel. So it's really a magical thing, and I think quite a few people, at least that I talked to, haven't experienced this yet before, so it's pretty amazing.
I was indeed one of the few who had never experienced a sound bath, and the Xanax was starting to kick in. The lights dimmed, and a woman named Cheshire took to the stage to kick off the sound bath with a sacred song. It began to rain outside.
I have walked upon the fire, giving life. Somehow destiny became a dove on wings of white. The dragon has awakened in the sky. Shadows are receding, all our fears are brought to light. Why? The truth is yours to find within the lies. Dawn will surely follow darkest night.
They were already crop dusting you with scents, and I would have paid almost anything to see your faces as this stuff was kicking off.
Well, you would have probably felt ripped off because I was smiling. My eyes were closed. I was very much enjoying it.
Vibing.
Once she was finished, the sound bath began. Now, if you listen closely, you can actually hear my soul leave my body. That alarm that you heard at the very end there was the flash flood warning that lit up everybody's phones, like in the middle of this like very sacred moment. It was, but you know, they rolled with it and everyone laughed it off. It was no big deal. What then proceeded was an hour-long sound bath, and I'm going to be totally honest, it was incredible. So often throughout this conference, I kept thinking to myself, if these folks didn't also believe in QAnon, this would have been quite a harmless experience, minus the crypto stuff maybe.
Travis, you heard Jake describe his smile. What was your experience with the sound bath?
I was a little uncomfortable, you know. I was sitting there. There was one point where a woman with sage and a fan came towards everyone and sort of like whisked burning sage in her general direction.
I loved it. After the sound bath, our brains were nice and supple. The first scheduled speaker was Alara of 1 Foot in 5D.
Alara of Sirius, as she calls herself, is a podcaster who has worked with a lot of other QAnon followers. Actually, Alara gave us our very first Q reference of the day about 3 minutes into the very first presentation of the entire event.
Nice.
She was displaying an illustration that represented herself because she happens to claim that she is an extraterrestrial, and she was talking about how important Q is to her.
Corey Good's artist, Steven Cephalo, drew this for me quite a while ago now, and it really it's hard to really understand me without Q, because Q is a major part of my story. So you'll see the Q around me and the where we go when we go all on my sword.
Like a lot of speakers throughout the event, Alara started out talking about what woke her up. All of these people seem to know of like a specific moment or event or life crisis, usually, that led to their conversion. They always have this road to Damascus moment, and it always happens to be an extremely stressful or dark point in their life. For Alara, it was in 2017 when she says she saw an alien spacecraft.
So how things kind of started with me. I woke up in 2017 when, and I'll show you guys a slide right after this, which has a picture of it so you can see what I'm talking about. I woke up in 2017 when an SSP ship known as the Dark Craft came for me. So kind of to explain, I was fully asleep in the Matrix Like had totally bought into it. I was probably in the darkest part of my life, really, really dark part of my life. And out of nowhere, this ship appeared right in front of me, probably like 50 feet in front of me. And it went from a point of light to a ship, just like you've heard, and many of you who have watched Cosmic Disclosure, seen Corey talk about this, same exact thing.
So she's at the lowest point of her life. She saw an alien spacecraft, and this opened up her third eye. She woke up. She took the red pill, thanks to the UFO, I guess. Her main presentation weaved together UFO talk, some sacred geometry, and actual scientific cosmology. There was also some talk about how the Bible related to modern physics.
Here's the problem. People tend to look at the Bible or religious texts in general and science as two mutually exclusive propositions. What I came to understand is that the Bible was written in a language appropriate at the time, but with our growing understanding of the science of quantum physics today, we can now evaluate those words through a whole new lens. I believe understanding biblical text is a matter of resonance, not mental processing power. This is something achieved through a shift in frequency or consciousness. This is absolutely not a cerebral process, in my opinion.
You know, it's interesting because it's like a New Age sort of approach to biblical interpretation, like New Age and Christianity. I think they generally take a sort of a pluralistic kind of attitude towards religion, where it's like all religions are like true in a certain way and all sort of sacred texts are valid. Honestly, theories about the origin and the fate of the universe took up the bulk of her speaking time. She talked about the Big Bang and dark matter, which she called the subconscious of the universe. She also talked about the Big Bounce, which is a hypothesis which speculates that the first cosmological event is the result of the collapse of a previous universe and the cycle is just repeating itself forever. Now, I don't have anything, there's nothing wrong with a good lecture on astrophysics, but honestly, I was expecting a lot more like super pilled content, especially from a person who purports to be a space alien. But it seemed like the audience was mostly interested in pilled content too, because during the Q&A session, they didn't ask her about the physics stuff. They asked her to recount her UFO experience. So she got right back to talking about the certain ships that she claims that she saw.
Tyler and Aaron of Journey to Truth.
The next speakers were Tyler and Aaron of Journey to Truth podcast, and Travis and I actually listened to them on the drive out to Arizona. As far as I can tell, they started their show about 2 years ago, and even though it primarily focuses on disclosure and self-work through spirituality, it's clear that they were into QAnon from the offset. Here is the promo for the launch of their podcast in February of 2019.
I feel like everyone has their own, there's something that like will trigger everyone to get on that journey, but I feel like it's different for every person. When you start waking up to that stuff, it's like, it just shatters your whole world, and like, it's intense and confusing.
It's for me, it's like I always knew, even growing up, it's like I always had this knowing of something, but I didn't even know what it was, and I was always watching any type of UFO program or something on Bigfoot or conspiracy theories or any paranormal thing. But it always left you hanging, and at the end they have a skeptic debunk it all, and then the show ends.
Yeah, they have the logical skeptic come on.
And people have been so programmed, you can just put the truth right in front of them.
Yeah, exactly, and because it's so far removed from the mainstream. When you actually do true research, you find that most of that is lies and is just propaganda. Let's say that the fact that ETs exist and have been to our planet, like there is so much evidence. There has to be something behind that. There has to be some kind of truth there, you know?
Yeah, and unfortunately, this evidence is being suppressed. That's why it's important that we have a platform like this to get the truth out there and to talk about what doesn't get talked about. There's a much brighter future for humanity, and that's only going to happen if we expose the truth.
Because the first day of the conference was devoted to mind, Tyler and Aaron were tasked with unloading about a century's worth of conspiracy theories in two 30-minute tag team presentations.
Just you hear the truck pulling up. Beep, beep, beep.
To their credit, I will say they hit all the juicy ones.
Nice.
Admiral Byrd and his journey to Inner Earth, Operation Paperclip, Bob Lazar, and even a shout out to my favorite alien contactee, Billy Meyer, who we covered on this show.
And to be clear, Operation Paperclip is not a conspiracy theory. It's
a real thing.
fact. Yeah.
Aaron spoke first and presented a sort of brief and inoffensive history of UFOs to the crowd. He spoke with the cadence of a high school history teacher who had completely checked out. I found it a little strange that we were covering what ultimately felt like the basics to a room full of people where half of them already understood they were the souls of aliens and even knew which specific solar system they hailed from. Nevertheless, he cracked a couple of jokes and the crowd loved it. I appreciated his efforts to bring normies like me up to speed, but even I felt like I was repeating a course I had already taken late at night on YouTube.
So, ETs and UFOs in ancient history, and there's many ancient artifacts, petroglyphs, cave drawings that depict ETs, as you can see, what appear to be ETs, and also UFOs. So that's very interesting.
Aaron then moved on to covering the modern history of UFOs, everything from Roswell to Travis Walton, who is the alleged abductee who the film Fire in the Sky is based on. I was curious to hear what Aaron thought of the most recent Pentagon preliminary report on UAPs, and both he and the audience, as well as this undercover infiltrator, were in agreement that it left a whole lot to be desired.
So the recent Pentagon UAP report, they're rebranding UFOs as UAPs now. Stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. It basically says most UFO sightings are natural or explainable, but there's some that can't be explained, and they don't know what they are. But some sightings appear to demonstrate advanced technology. Of course, they have no idea what this technology is. They don't have it. We don't have it, of course. Neither confirms nor denies them being of extraterrestrial origin. So basically, they're just not telling us anything.
So the one good thing about the report, Aaron claims, is that it has the potential to wake up completely asleep normies that UFOs are acknowledged in some form by the U.S. government. But he goes on to say that it doesn't really matter that the report is useless because people can go see a guaranteed UFO sighting for themselves right here in Arizona.
You can literally see UFOs for yourself. I mean, many, many places. Here in Sedona, there's a lot of activity here. This is a vortex, as many of you know. But at East Eddy Ranch in Trout Lake, Washington, run by James Gilliland, I've been there multiple times. Literally, basically every single day, you will see UFOs in the sky there. It's pretty much guaranteed. So you can just go there and you can see them for yourself. There's regular UFO activity, along with a lot of Bigfoot activity, fairies, orbs, ETs, and different beings manifesting, and other mystical experiences. There's many naysayers of East Eddy, but no one has ever been able to truly debunk any of the activity there.
The way he sort of casually blows by Bigfoot, fairies, orbs, and other paranormal phenomenon kind of blows my mind. If everyone in the room accepts this knowledge as a given, why even bother trudging through it? And if you're trying to attract new believers, why wouldn't you try to make this more exciting? It'll turn out later that I much preferred Aaron's approach because when one of the later speakers launched into an aggressive rant about his 7 different starseed forms, I was really turned off. But what of QAnon? The entire speech was, until this point, completely absent of any mention of Q. When he did finally touch on it towards the end of his lecture, it was so quick I didn't even notice it until poring over my audio recordings.
So disclosure is so much more than UFOs. True full disclosure is going to include it's a picture of the supposed med beds that we have, just the medical healing technologies, disclosure of what we know about ETs and the cosmos and the galactic stuff that we already know, the child sex trafficking. There's a picture of Tesla, so free energy, all the free energy technology that we have that's being suppressed, and disclosure of who we really are, which we've been lied to about and have not been told. So we are disclosure. We are actually disclosure. True disclosure happens through us. Disclosure is not something that can be handed to us by any government or outside authority. Self-sovereignty is key to spiritual growth, advancement, and true freedom in living. So here it says, the vision for Earth at this time is to recover soul sovereignty. Ask within for the highest and best way. Love will answer. The truth is, we are eternal, sovereign, spiritual beings. There's no such thing as anything outside of ourselves having any kind of power or authority over us, unless, of course, we give that power away. For thousands of years, we've been tricked into giving our power away to institutions and authorities, and our infinite and multidimensional nature has been kept hidden from us. We've been lied to about literally everything. It's time to wake up to who we really are, take our power back, and reclaim our sovereignty. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
In the end there, he really kind of skims over a lot of beliefs we see in QAnon. The trafficked children, the sovereign citizen movement, free energy, a shadowy cabal. Also, I'm 99% sure that the image of the med bed he referred to in his presentation is just a screen grab from Prometheus.
It will remove a xenomorph from your stomach, suture you back up, and potentially exterminate it in a fiery flame.
Also relevant is the blossoming belief amongst QAnon believers that, quote, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. The phrase sit back and enjoy the show or get your popcorn was completely absent from all speakers. Am I right, Travis?
Yeah. They used to have this fantasy that, that eventually the mainstream media would be forced to recognize their white hot truths. But now they're like, oh, no, it's gone now. It's all us now.
So next up is Tyler, who is Aaron's podcasting partner, who admitted that he and Aaron had not compared notes before the event and claimed that he had essentially prepared almost the exact same lecture.
Oh my God, he's that boring too?
So you know what's funny? Aaron and I, we're doing basically the same exact presentation. But we didn't compare notes, and you're going to get to see both of our minds at work here and on how we perceive this, because we've been doing this show for a little over 2 years now, and something that's come to my attention is that a lot of people, we throw these terms around, and we get into some advanced stuff that some of these people are just hearing these terms for the first time. So I want to paint a picture and make it a reality for people who might not be aware of this stuff, and give a little timeline and bring us up to disclosure, and you're going to get my take on basically the same thing. So give me just a minute to set my computer up.
So this preparing the same presentation turned out really not to be the case. Tyler was much more energetic, perhaps because Aaron had eaten into a good chunk of his lecture time, and he was under the gun to get all of his talking points out. Tyler opened up with a clip from Weekend at Bernie's that said represented how he felt every time he saw, quote, a false flag attempt. So right off the bat, it appears that he was much more comfortable using phrases popular within the QAnon/conspiracy community. Before he kicked off, Tyler spoke personally about how tough it is spending time around one's biological family. It's a sentiment that we're all too familiar with in studying QAnon, and I found the moment to be heartbreaking. Right afterwards, though, he seemed to make a vague reference to flat Earth.
This is how I feel most of the time when I'm hanging around. I went on a family vacation recently, and this feels more like family, to be honest. And I love my family, but you guys know how it is. We can't be ourselves around them sometimes, as hard as we try. All history is a lie. Maybe not, maybe it is. I don't know, I've never been off this planet, so I can't tell you what shape it is, what actually exists out there. We have to take everyone's word for everything, right? They have all the observatories shut down right now, so we have to take NASA's word and SpaceX. We have to take their word for what's going on in space. Why is that? Why don't they want us looking up there? What's going on? I have no idea. And I do know, can somebody grab me some water? Would that be all right?
So after showing, which I have to admit, a kind of convincing photograph of what Tyler described as a reptilian tanker spewing noxious gases into the atmosphere above Calabasas, his lecture really took off at light speed. Much like Travis has pointed out time after time about conspiracy videos on YouTube, Tyler makes some pretty bold statements, but moves on from them so quickly, you don't even have a chance to sort of stop and process them before you're hit with the next theory.
The U.S. is ran by, essentially, Nazis. But they didn't tell us that, what was going on behind the scenes. Simultaneously, they were developing bases on the moon and Mars since the early 40s. But as of a month ago, we still don't know if UFOs exist, like Aaron said. This explains Operation Paperclip. I really need to go a lot faster. Okay, 1945, Operation Tiburon 1 and 2. British soldiers discovered German base. 30 guys were sent in. One guy made it back. The one guy that made it back was able to tell whoever needed to know. They sent back They sent back 10 British commandos after that. And only, I forgot how many of those guys, only 3 of them made it back. They discovered the base. But, so they verified, two different expeditions verified that the Germans had a base, extremely advanced technology. They had claimed that it looked like they had been down there for a long time. And this was in 1945. So they had probably been there in 1901 and 1911, either beginning to establish this. And by the way, they claim that you can get to it from Germany to Antarctica underwater via submarine.
In the next part of his speech, Tyler seems to directly contradict his co-host. He claims that an image of hovering lights above the White House in a 1952 photograph are not actual UFOs, but rather Nazi-built ships that had been retro-engineered after obtaining crashed alien spacecraft. He claims that this event was the Nazis threatening our nation, showing off their much superior aerial craft technology. To be fair, this was a widely reported on event, and many air traffic controllers, both civilian and military, stand by their account that the objects were solid. Fighter jets were dispatched to intercept, and their pilots were also convinced the objects were highly advanced crafts. The Air Force's response was that the phenomenon could have been caused by temperature inversion, but many of the radar witnesses disputed this explanation. Then Tyler brings up a theory that I am not familiar with. He clicks on his PowerPoint to an angled-up shot of Donald Trump, sitting in the Oval Office at his desk, signing an executive order. Behind him, a group of people are watching over his shoulder, smiling. Tyler goes on to say this about the photograph.
Why I chose this picture is because according to Johann Fritz and a few other people who are in the programs, they claim that you see this black man and this blonde woman right next to Trump. They claim that those are extraterrestrials. Pleiadian commander and Illyrian commander. We don't know, right? We have no idea. But if that's the case, that's really cool, and that might change your mind about the Trump administration and what was really going on, and what's going on behind the Space Force.
That's right. Aliens were in the Oval Office overseeing signings from Trump.
I have a hard time believing personally that if Trump indeed created the Space Force working in tandem with a Pleiadian commander, he would just not be able to keep quiet about it. I'm sorry.
No.
I mean, imagine that rally. You know, imagine the votes. Don't vote for Joe Biden. He's currently not working with the Intergalactic Council like we are. And furthermore, how could the Galactic Council allow Biden to win? They should have the technology to zap the voting machines, resulting in a landslide Trump win. I mean, I already know that the answer is because Biden had to win to allow the deep state to think they'd won and expose their hand. But come on, I think my criticism is fair here.
I agree.
Mars attacks, except they're just exterminating the Clinton campaign.
As Tyler began to close out his speech, he actually touched on something that we have discussed multiple times throughout the show. If the news is fake and evil, why are Anons looking to them for validation?
Mainstream CNN, what should we call it? Communist, narcissist network? Why? And here's another thing. So why do we want disclosure from the same source we've been steering people away from? So how many of us, going through our awakening, tell all our friends, you have to stop watching the news. You can't listen to a word they say. You have to believe, or don't believe anything they say. And here we all are wanting disclosure from the news. And like, when are we gonna stop and think for a second?
So finally, in what was probably the most symbolic moment between all of the day's speakers, as Tyler was wrapping up his speech with a quick glossary of terminology, something pretty funny happened.
What is a fact? What is a fact, right? When enough people agree on a theory, it becomes a fact. You don't know what you don't know. Yes, see? Think about that. Think about that. Oh, where's the typo? Oh. Yes.
So what you're hearing here is Tyler is reading his definition from his PowerPoint presentation, and Kate Awakening's adorable little kid, who's, around 6 years old, who's been sitting up front with headphones on playing his iPad, looks up and points out that Tyler has a major typo in his PowerPoint presentation, that he has spelled no as yo. And so the kid looked up and was like,
Fucking
yo.
Getting spell checked by a kindergartner. Absolutely
By a
owned.
6-year-old. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, that 6-year-old might as well have gone up there with a 45, put it to his head, and shot him. Forget it.
Immediately following, and something that hit me in a weird way, is both Tyler and the child's mom, Kate, sort of joke about how, one day that this kid is going to be on this very same stage, giving these same kind of speeches.
This is Kate Awakening's son, and he will be on this stage one day. He could probably be on this stage right now. He's only 6 years old. And I'm not joking.
The Kate Awakening.
We first talked about the Kate Awakening all the way back in 2019 on this pod during our YouTube episode. Now, it was obvious that she was an up-and-coming QAnon influencer, in part because she is an attractive and charming woman in a field of influencers who look like praying medic. Per usual, she opened by talking about her conversion experience, and she says she was pilled by Pizzagate and Q.
My awakening started with Q. So I know not everybody is a Q person. I am, though, and it kind of doesn't matter what Q is or was, it woke up millions of people, and I am one of those people. And actually, truthfully, it started with Pizzagate. So I went down this rabbit hole with Pizzagate over the course of a weekend and didn't sleep the entire weekend. I can't believe what I was able to find on the internet. So this was February of 2018, and it changed me as a human being.
We've talked before on the show about the New Age to QAnon pipeline, where people who are into yoga or crystals drift into this online fascist cult. But this is interesting because it's a flow in the opposite direction. It's the Q to New Age pipeline. They're all just like elements that are just churning in this conspiratorial soup. She also talked about a common radicalization pathway for QAnon followers. Pizzagate sent her to the depths of despair, and Q gave her hope.
So I don't even know what I looked into, what I researched, but somehow by the grace of God I landed on the Q operation. I remember I was listening to two guys on a podcast. It wasn't really the truth. I think I'm older than them, but just a little. But there were two guys talking about it, and it was exactly like Tyler was saying. It was like the truth was vibrating in my body, and I just knew it. I knew what they were talking about was the truth. And thank God, because it was the hope that I needed. It was the light at the end of the tunnel, and then I had something that I could do with it. I honestly don't know where. I would probably still be in the fetal position if I hadn't found out about it.
Interestingly, she says that the inauguration of President Biden caused her to shift from researching information and being a digital soldier to exploring spirituality.
I was really heavily focused on the information, and let me tell you, that was not healthy. It was good, and I needed it, but at the same time, it was like I needed a break. And when the inauguration happened, I was just burnt out. I looked like you guys. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up anymore. So at that point, I shifted gears, and it was kind of a natural progression. I shifted more into the spirituality. I've always been interested in the spirituality, but this catalyzed me.
Honestly, I think that for QAnon followers, the inauguration of Joe Biden had one or two effects. It either made them just go into pure denial mode, and where they're exploring these audits, and they assume that this isn't happening, President Trump is coming back, and this isn't real, or maybe they say that, oh, this is all part of the plan, or they just leave this physical plane. They go into weird 5D spiritual stuff.
Well, that was always the case. That was the whole point of the Great Awakening, Travis. If only Jesus had come down, we would all ascend to a higher plane, 5D heaven. Unfortunately, the great 3D disappointment will be difficult.
Her presentation was honestly a lot of standard fare QAnon stuff. She talked about the cosmic battle between good versus evil and mimetic warfare. She also did that thing QAnon followers do where they assume that Trump's every quirk has a secret meaning. For example, she thinks that there's a particular reason that Trump pronounces China the way that he does.
When he gets us to make fun of him, he's literally seeding public consciousness. When he says, the way he says China, okay? You all just said it in your head. China. So he had us all going China in our heads while the mainstream media was saying Russia, Russia, Russia.
She also talked a lot about her upbringing. She said that she was raised Catholic, but also her mom was a hypnotist who did past life regression. I don't quite understand how that works. She also says that she was influenced by Buddhism growing up. I mean, this is a weird sort of eclectic mix of religious traditions. I don't know how it's exactly as compatible with Catholicism, but this is what she said. Her presentation also covered, hypnotherapy practices and mindset, like having abundance mentality, thinking you deserve more. Honestly, it wasn't any different than what you might hear from a conventional motivational speaker or Oprah or something. The Kate Awakening wrapped up her talk by recommending a Buddhist chant that she claims helps manifest things into your life.
Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And you say it over and over again. You can do it wherever. You could be in your car. I actually mostly chant in my car. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. This is Daimoku. There's also Gongyo. It's longer and a lot more involved and tired even thinking about it. But this is kind of, basically the way I understand it is putting your body in vibration with the universe, where you've got a direct phone call to Chipotle and you say, no sour cream please, I would like the chicken, and you can manifest things into your life.
Wait, but that's it. That's the end of it. That's capitalism. You're going to manifest something. You're going to 5D. You're thinking about fucking Chipotle. You're thinking about fucking Chipotle.
I mean, honestly, I was kind of surprised that she went the meditative chanting route. I didn't think I would get that from her, but yeah, she was interesting.
The evening closed out with Pilled Sedona rap artist Ben Steezy, joined by singer Alo. In the QAnon community, Ben is most known for his song about adrenochrome, titled Adrenochrome.
Send me the lane. This is not a game, mashallah, mother. Is it red, blue? Got pills in the booth. Head full of Xan. Watching MSM News? Send me the link, who got the plug, not what you think, new type of drug. Have you a drink, sip you some blood, feed the elite, fear of the young. Give you the strength, do what you love, long as you sink, spirit above. Devil may wink, gift you a glove, then in a blink, controlling your tongue. Giving goals, platinum gold, belly home, pockets full. Baited trolls, paid tolls, your soul, bank swole. Feed on fear, sick, poor, breeding tears, adrenaline pours out of the gland, onto the floor. What color's the X, they painted the door. Is it red, blue? Got pills in the booth. Head full of Xan. Watching MSM News? Send me the link, who got the plug? Tell me the doc that's writing you up. Popping your perks, tipping your cups, right with the lean, curing the cut. But tell me who gets paid on the back end.
Who gets paid on the front?
Interestingly enough, the performance that we got was much friendlier and not nearly as dark. Ben opened with a warm-up freestyle.
Yeah, we're gonna get started. This first track is kind of just like a freestyle fun track to get everybody in here and warmed up, and then we'll get into some real solid music. So let's get going. I'm ready. We vibe out. We vibe out. We vibe out. With my queen, you can catch me vibing. Every day I be living here, you know the livest. All the time when we do it, my prime shining. Like the sun in my spirit, yeah, I'm all diamonds. I've been living in this gifted, got the gift gap. I can ride it, I can spit it, don't need pencil pad. My hand is broken, but I'm choking on the microphone with left because I do it, yeah, that's Lucy in my microphone. I'm so thankful for my family. I'm probably gonna spend something that should deserve a Grammy, but I'll never get it for this because it's not recorded or even written. Yo, check out
You hear Jake grooving out.
Maybe the rhymes got darker as the concert went on, but Travis and I were exhausted, so we slipped out through the large double doors and walked to my car in the pouring rain. As we got in the car, Travis admitted that perhaps he had been overly concerned about getting identified by the Kate Awakening.
All right, J1, my brain's a little softened.
Oh yeah, my brain incredibly soft. There's a bat.
Yeah, you know what? upon further reflection, I'll make Kay wake your ass how fucking cool who I am.
No. Nobody does. Are you
Nobody does.
kidding?
It's a different crowd.
It's a different crowd. We were arguably the two shadiest guys there.
Day 2.
The first speaker on day 2 was a man named Alexander Nazone, the founder and CEO of the new age jewelry company Crystal Current. Nazone describes himself as a master of tarot, numerology, and Reiki. Before the event started, I actually spoke to him at his booth in the vendor room. He had a bunch of bracelets for sale that all consisted of a bunch of beads of different gemstones, as he called them. I settled on purchasing a bracelet which he called the Sky God.
Boys, how much fucking money did you spend there? What the fuck was happening? This sounds like a visit to the fucking mall. You bought a necklace, you bought a bracelet, and the fucking Batman thing?
I brought some ass cream as well. Now listen. When you're undercover, the best way to assuage any one of their suspicions is to spend at least $100 at their wares booths. Okay.
Yeah.
This got us in with the vendors. This because it was a small venue,
Right.
so other speakers saw us making purchases, looking. It helped us blend in, and I absolutely believe that this was a necessary expense. I spent my own money. I did not spend the podcast money or our patrons' money.
You should have spent the patrons' money, and also, are you going to use that asshole cream?
Yes.
Okay.
My Sky God bracelet includes a bunch of dark-colored stones, which include black agate angel aura, golden obsidian angel aura, shungite, and snowflake obsidian. On his website, he describes the bracelet this way.
Sky God, aka the Warrior 5.0, is the physical embodiment of the harnessed power of the divine masculine oversoul, the god of gods and the power of the void, which is a necessary cogwheel in the energetic function of our reality. This energy tool holds a vibration of safety and protection like no other, and it will help you excel with workout recovery, manifestation, transmutation of lower vibrational energies, dissolving fears, and clearing the energetic field around you.
Reading this description is a good illustration of like why I struggle to even engage with this new age stuff. I like language because it's able to bring like clarity and precision to ideas. It's able to like, part the clouds, and they're able to sort of understand ideas in other people's minds. But like the phrase "a necessary cogwheel in the energetic function of a reality" means nothing to me. This is just gibberish. It's not. It's a sign with no like signifier.
But when I think of you, I really think of the divine masculine oversoul.
Yeah, you don't need a bracelet, man.
When I put the bracelet on, he asked me if I was feeling it, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, totally."
You meant yourself.
Right. I did wind up wearing the bracelet the whole conference. Actually, I have it on right now.
Yes.
Like many other speakers, Nazone opened with his personal testimonial of how he was awakened. He was spending a lot of time drinking with his friends and chasing women before his third eye opened. And this experience was so profound, according to him, it left physical scars on his body.
2008. My friends want to slick our hair back and go pick up girls and funnel whiskey. That's what they wanted to do in 2008. That's what was going on with my generation of men. My third eye completely turns on accidentally. My third eye turns on because I was a personal trainer. I was following math formulas. The math formulas led me to how much water to drink. How much water to drink led me to filling up a BPA-free water bottle. Filling up a BPA-free water bottle led me to go to my garage where we had well water, 300 feet from underground. I didn't know what I was doing. I was working on my body. I was being vain. But through this vanity, through this focus on the body, three parts of the mind, body, and soul trinity, my third eye completely turned on. I have actual scarring on the sides of my head, right here, on each side, like Frankenstein bolts.
I didn't inspect his head to see if this was true.
Yeah,
But
he had on a lot of stuff. He had like a headband on and a hoodie kind of like over his head. I mean, he kind of dressed like a rapper, and his energy was like the Ryan Reynolds of the New Age community.
Nazone was also big on the Mandela effect. Now, for those who aren't familiar, the Mandela effect is when someone or a group of people vividly remember something that doesn't match historical records. For example, many people are under the false impression that there was a peanut butter brand called Jiffy, and this is not true. There's a brand called Jif, and there's one called Skippy, but Jiffy was never a peanut butter brand. The Mandela effect was coined by blogger and self-described paranormal researcher Fiona Broom in 2010. She says that she believed at the time that Nelson Mandela had died in prison in the 1980s. He, of course, had not. Mandela was released from prison in 1990, elected president of South Africa in 1994, and died a free man in 2013. But Broom says that she discovered that many other people were also under this false impression. Now, myself, if I had a misapprehension, if I had some sort of a false idea of what's true, I'd be like, oh, I guess I'm a bit of a dummy. I would just correct the information inside of my head. I'd move on with my life. This is what I would do. This is not what she did. She coined the Mandela effect, and she claimed that there was some sort of phenomenon where just a group of people have a false idea of something, and there's like some sort of significant reason why. Usually this phenomenon is explained by just the quirks of how memory works. People don't have a perfect recall, like retrieving a file from a computer. Sometimes when you recall something, you might gloss over some information or make inferences or use context clues, or you might just believe a false rumor that makes more sense to you than what actually happened and mistakenly believe that this was actually your personal memory rather than just something that you heard. But to Nazone, and apparently to some of our fellow attendees, the Mandela effect is actually something more profound. It's evidence that timelines are shifting. To illustrate his point, Nazone uses the example of another classic Mandela effect. Many people believe that in the Disney film Snow White, the Wicked Queen says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall." But she does not. She actually says, "Magic mirror on the wall." Now, in the original Grimm fairy tale, the Wicked Queen actually does say "mirror, mirror," but in the original animated Disney version, it was always "magic mirror on the wall."
I know you've seen stuff that have been proof to you that this is not real. Whether it's a video game or what this reality is, real-itty, it's a little bit real. It's a little bit real. It's a soul having a physical experience. But we're going through timeline shifts. We're going through timeline shifts where most of you in this room, I would say at least 99%, remember Snow White being "mirror, mirror on the wall." But for some reason, if you go to your mom or dad's house and dig out your big white cassette tape, VHS Disney tape, it got changed to "Magic Mirror." Okay? I've proven numerous times, 3 times, I've proven the existence of the Mandela effect.
As further evidence of this claim, he cites the fact that in the German dub of Disney's Snow White, the Queen does say "mirror, mirror."
If you right now do research, and you go into your Google bar, and you type in Spiegelin, 1938, it's going to pull up Snow White in Germany. The German version of Snow White never got changed, never got affected by the Mandela effect. These people that have been telling us that we're crazy and what we remember is not the truth, the direct translation is still "mirror, mirror, Spiegelin, Spiegelin an der Wand" in Germany. Never got changed. Why did it take over 10 years for me to find this, and why am I the first one to find this after all this time? Like, not a single German person was like, "Hello, it's mirror, mirror here."
I mean, like I said, in the original German Grimm fairy tale version, it was "mirror, mirror." So it's more parsimonious to say that the translator simply made the Queen say "mirror, mirror." So that was more in line with what the German film watching audience already knew and loved, rather than timeline shifting. He also discussed another Mandela effect that involves Star Wars, and when he started talking about it, he pointed at me in the audience, and he claimed that I seemed more like a Star Trek guy, which is accurate.
And, I'm a Star Wars nerd, all right? You knew it. You knew he wasn't a Star Trek guy. That's the Star Trek thing. Really love you. Oh, God, that guy's mad. He's like, I want to return my bracelet. I love the new generation. Not anti-Star Trek. But anyways.
The next generation.
Yeah, right. Don't love it that much, apparently.
Look, we didn't want to draw any more of a scene than we already had.
Hey, I'm a nerd. I love the Star Conflicts movies.
Right. This is interesting because he was convinced that in the iconic scene in Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader first said, "I am your father." but then it changed to I'm your father with an apostrophe. And then here's the interesting part. It changed back, according to him, to I am your father. And this is untrue. This is only in this head. And it was when I tried to research this, I learned that this is not a common Mandela effect that people talk about. This seems to be particular to him.
Yeah.
It was I am. It was I am. I spent over 4 years saying, how does I am become I'm, and no one realizes this. No one's talking about this. And now, go Google it. Go look at the original film. It's back to I am. I don't know if some of you heard it was I'm, and you remember that. We've shifted timelines again. It's back to I am. How's that? That's a good thing.
So strange to me. It seems like he's causing himself a lot of like bizarre, unnecessary stress. This is like a big deal. He's talking about, I spent years trying to figure out how this changed when it didn't change. This is all just a weird fiction just inside of his head that's causing a lot of troubles for him.
Were there crickets in the room at that point? That seems embarrassing even for this crowd.
No, did you hear at the end? Like it was like, how's that? There's a woman who whooped. Like
I thought that was his mom.
I mean, he was like, it's like
he was one of them. He was definitely like
he was actually one of the most dynamic speakers.
Yeah, one of the most dynamic speakers.
I think this is again another case when the point is the vibe, right? The fact that he's what he's saying is nonsense, but he's speaking so passionately and pointedly, and certainly that I felt like he was a little bit more interesting than some of the other people who actually brought up like historical information. The Zone also talked about how words are spells and how we tend to use passionate words for mundane things. And honestly, if you remove the kind of the woo magic stuff, I think he had a good point about how language is misused.
How many people do you know that are they're just lost? They're just lost beings, and they say everything's amazing. 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 This is a word that was designed for a guy to look into his goddess's eyes or something like along the lines of that and say, your eyes are so beautiful, I'm lost in them. They are amazing. When people think that their bagel from Dunkin' Donuts is amazing, they're lost beings because they're casting a bullshit mantra every single day, numerous times a day. Your words are spells. There's many, many out there that are doing this work with me, deciphering these spells, breaking down these words. And when we stop saying just one word that you're casting every day, that is not serving you, and you stop, your reality improves.
I mean, I'm on board with this. Like people tend to use words that should be reserved for our loved ones and personal experiences, and instead they're being used for commercial products and fast food.
I'm not surprised that you are on board with this old man yells at clouds shit.
I'm on board too.
While he was speaking, I also got a sense of the utopian optimism of New Age thinking. He claimed that the purpose of the attendees was to create heaven on earth.
Where are the people that thought there was going to be a tidal wave? Why did they stop saying it? Where are the people that wanted a zombie apocalypse that we actually started to see in this reality? We saw people smoking these bath salts or whatever. Starting Where are the people that thought there was going to be a zombie apocalypse? Because I would hear it all the time. Where are the people that thought we were going to run out of water? Where are the people that thought a volcano was going to block out the sun? We're on a different RV. We're in a different Millennium Falcon. We're in a different vehicle. Our vehicle is going towards ascension. Our vehicle is going towards what we actually came here to do, which is to create heaven on earth.
Honestly, a lot of his speech was simply not intelligible to me. Just like the description of the bracelet, it was like a jumble of words that didn't actually refer to any coherent concept or idea. I'm just not on his vibrational frequency, I don't think, in order to like pick up what he's laying down.
Matthew Mornian of School of Multidimensional Intuition.
Speaking of vibrational frequency, the second speaker of the day was Matthew Mornian, a multidimensional energy healer. Normally, I find this sort of stuff fascinating. I'm very into like string theory and alternate dimensions, that sort of stuff, from a creative standpoint. But Matthew was a little discombobulated and somewhat all over the place. Behind him were slides with paragraphs and paragraphs of teeny tiny text. My mind began to melt as he spoke of putting his hand inside of somebody's body and healing them in fractal space. One thing that was almost a total constant in all of the speeches was that each talked about being at a place of complete rock bottom before their spiritual awakening. For Alara, it was depression and suicidal thoughts. For Alexander, it was a total disconnect from his friends who wanted to party all the time. They each described themselves being in an incredibly dark place before their, quote, third eye opened. For Matthew, it was struggling with drug addiction.
Honestly, I was born into a very addicted, very strange, very dysfunctional, just a chaotic, strange family in a chaotic, strange world. And I had to go through this battle of addictions. I had to go through jails, institutions, all of those crazy things that people in the third density society talk about until right around age 38, in which the strange woman put her hands on my head at an outdoor fair, opened my crown chakra, and as crazy as it sounds, I was never the same after that. Something changed in my life. You know, within a couple of weeks, maybe a month, I started to have visitations. I didn't know what they were at the time. This was in 2015. I was working as a mental health worker, which is really, it's a really cool thing. At the time, I was working with veterans, and it was an incredible journey. And suddenly, these beings started showing up in my room at night. Suddenly, I started to be, the only thing I could do for about 2 years straight was qigong in my backyard. Literally, that was the only thing that I could do. During that 2-year process for me, so many things changed. Beings started showing up. Abilities started happening. There was days when I would wake up in the morning and I could see the inside of my body, and honestly, it freaked me out. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going crazy, and what I realized was that there was channels running through every bit of my body, and there was points where I could actually put my fingers on them and touch it and receive a memory, receive an emotion, even receive pictures of other people at work that I had been working with days earlier, and at that stage of my life, it created insanity. I did not know what to do with it. What I found out after a lot of self-work is that I was having what we call a soul braiding event. I was going through a very, very rapid awakening process.
I have to admit, during that clip, for some reason, my mind retreated into itself, and I was just looking at your face, Jake, and your face, Travis, and thinking about how age works, thinking of you getting old and passing away and how absolutely devastated I would be. And then I started to get teary-eyed, and then my consciousness kind of shifted me back into the speech. I'm not joking, though. You guys better not go anywhere.
We ain't going nowhere.
Okay.
So Matthew went on to say that his awakening culminated in being visited by a large praying mantis, and immediately after this visitation, he decided to end his marriage.
I was standing in my backyard, and to my right was a very tall Nordic man, maybe about 7 to 8 feet tall. To my left was what I believe to just be some sort of a light being, a very, very tall sort of being. And right in front of me was a giant praying mantis. It was the third time I had ever seen those beings. And it was one of the strangest and most emotional experiences of my life. I was told at that moment that I had a mission. It was time to remember. And I knew in that moment that I was going to leave everything behind. I mean, really, I internalized it in my heart. I was like, this is it. My life is changing. Something is done. And within about 5 seconds, my wife at the time walked outside, and I'm kneeling down on this grass in my backyard. My tears streaming down my face. And she comes outside, she's like, so what are we going to have for dinner? And I knew in that moment that I was like, okay, this does no longer suit me. And so yeah, about a year later, in July of 2017, I totally left that behind. And I did. Like I said, I put my stuff on the curb and we drove into a new stage of identity, not knowing where I was going, literally not knowing where I was going.
When Matthew's speech wrapped up, people were asking questions, and I, like you, Julian, I think I was affected by this speech. I sort of got pulled in, and I actually did have a question. You see, my partner in my real life suffers from horrible nightmares. Nightmares like I've never experienced or heard of.